Friend asks, why become Falcon fan? Why not be Buccaneer or even Saint fan? Growing up would see team with paper bag on head. Why be fan of paper bag? Who like paper bag? And even see Tampa Bay not in this division get beat in black and blue division in old school days. Only hear Saint fan and Tampa Bay fan when winning. But Falcon fan, oh, you'll hear them loud and clear. Win, lose, or draw. They're like bear fighter. Their meat is sweeter after strong struggle. Same with championship. Sweeter victory once finally arrive at destination. I joke, I lie. Become Falcon fan because first blue thing was listening to What's Up, first time I ever meet her. Shout out to Player Poncho. Rise up. Hop into the bird box. What's going on, family? It's your boy Simo the C. Mitchell checking in with another episode of the Falcons Bird Bath. Shout out to our loyal guests and subscribers. And if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe for us below. Small thing for you, big thing for us. Helps our channel grow and helps us improve with our numbers and continue to be able to bring you guys hot fire. But let's get into it right now with what's happening with the team. Last week, the Falcons were without some key players on our defense and on our offense, as I said before. But at this point in time, so far, the Falcons have actually had a few players practice, and it looks a little bit promising. Norton, who we've been without for most of the season, was a full participant on Wednesday and Thursday. Mooney was a limited participant both Wednesday and Thursday. Jessie Bates, who was hurt after the last game previously, not sure if we're going to get him back, as well as Drake London. Kyle Pitts has creeped up on the injury report, but they said Michael Pennix has been practicing this week, and he might be a candidate to come back. We're not too sure about that yet. Jalon Walker, Billy Bowman, both are back practicing a little bit, even though they've been limited participants. Leonard Floyd didn't practice yesterday, but he was a limited participant today, as well as Zack Harrison. Hopefully we're going to get Michael Pennix back. We don't want to be without Jessie Bates. We can't afford to be down any wide receivers, so we definitely need to get Drake London and Mooney back. But Raheem Morris did say that it was a possibility that we could get Walker and Bowman back this week already, according to Tom Raimondi. And Raimondi also tweeted out that Morris said that Walker's going to play a lot more off-ball linebacker once he does actually return. Now, previously in the video earlier this week, and I'll link that in the description, when we talked about the first look at the Falcons and some of the problems with the team, I said that I wanted to see us actually sign an off-ball linebacker or trade for one. And part of the reason we probably haven't done that so far is something else that I said. I would like to see Walker play a little bit more off-ball linebacker in the coming weeks until we can get Divine Diablo back. Now, the Falcons didn't look too bad as a pass rush defense last week without Jaylen Walker. It definitely hurt us in the run game not having him out there, but a lot of the times Jaylen Walker's lining up in the A gaps and the B gaps, blitzing on some of the passing downs and blitzing downs, and he's actually getting his pass rush on some of the earlier downs sometimes when they're going play action or they're trying to throw the team off a little bit. So it's not totally out of the question to see him playing around a lot more, and you kind of drafted him to be a unicorn that you can move all the way around. I think that having Divine Diablo out there earlier in the year was much more of a luxury to let him just learn the edge and play there as an edge defender. He's been great against the option. He's been great against the run when they try to trap us. But I think that if we can get him back this week, now he does have a groin injury, so it's going to be hard determining how he's going to be able to respond to treatment. At any point in time, he could aggravate it further, or he could be healed up a lot better. And it looks like they kept him out a while to make sure that he could heal up a little bit better. So I do like the chances of him coming out there, but I believe that that's a strong reason that we probably haven't actually looked in that direction to sign somebody else. And they don't seem to be talking too much about what they're going to do out there. So I love the option of putting Jaylen Walker as an off-ball linebacker. He brings a lot of the same things at that Divine Diablo we bring, in my humble opinion. I think he's good in coverage. He's good in space as a tackler. He's real cerebral. And at this point in time, he's probably got a little bit more use, not fully adapted, but just a little bit more use to playing at game speed in the NFL and knowing what to expect. Also, having Billy Bowman out there is going to be tremendous for us in the run game in our nickel packages. He allows us to do so much more out there than D. Alford does. And D. Alford's been playing pretty good. I don't want to rag on him or anything, but D. Alford's not the same type of run support guy. He's not as good just in pass coverage, and he's not the ball hawk that Billy Bowman is. But Billy Bowman is really good at block shedding, and I did a little bit of video on him earlier this year. I'm not going to, continue to throw more tape out there of him. I'll link something in the description about that as well. But Billy Bowman is really good at shedding blocks in the run game, even against tight ends when they try to block him in space. He's been tremendous for us, and I think it's definitely hurt our defense a little bit more. We've progressively gotten worse in the run game. We've progressively gotten worse in the run game since we haven't had him out there. And while we're still talking about injuries and people that could return, if we can get Zack Harrison back this week, that's going to be tremendous for us. He's a guy that plays really stout and plays just bigger than he is in those A and B gaps as a tackle and playing against the run and as a good pass rush defender. And that might be a reason that we're not probably going to see them try to add to the defensive line, because I believe when we have him out there, he's tremendous for us. He's one of our biggest X factors because he's really good in space as a edge defender and being able to run down speedy quarterbacks a lot better than you would actually think. He's got a lot of length out there to him. I mean, it's hard to get the ball over him because we're talking about a guy who's like 6'5", and he's actually got pretty good footwork for a guy so tall. So that definitely creates problems out there for quarterbacks, and even against the run, you can't just punk them and just knock them off of your blocks as easily as you would like to. And so he presents a similar problem to somebody like James Pierce Jr., but in the run game, he's even more stout. So hopefully we get him back this game as well too, and we're going to need it because we're going to get into what New England actually does and what I expect this outcome of this game to be. Now, on paper, we are a better team than New England. But as far as our coaching, I'm not even going to be a homer. I'm not going to lie to you guys. They have a better coaching staff on paper. Presumably, Mike Vrabel is a better coach than Raheem Morris, at least in the department of his adjustments and being prepared. I think that Mike Vrabel, he came up under one of the greatest head coaches of all time, and he's learned a lot from that coaching staff and Bill Belichick. He's going to come out there and be on top of it with the X's and O's. His teams are always meat and potato type teams. When he was a coach in Tennessee, the Titans were really good at running the football, and they played really good defense. And that's what this team is right now in New England. They're a team who runs the football pretty effectively, except they don't have the same type of running back that they had with Derrick Henry back when he was there before. But they are definitely committed to running the football, even though they don't get more yards per game than us. I think they have more rushing attempts than us this year, and they will consistently run the football more situationally. They have specialized guys who will, catch the ball in space. Now, as I stated earlier this year, they definitely are a running back by committee. You got Ramondre Stevenson, who is there between the tackles, mostly running downs, running back. And then you got Travion Henderson, who's a little bit more of their pass catching and pass downs running back. Now, both of those guys have been pretty solid for them this year. Neither one of them are game breakers. And even with their offense, they don't just have one wide receiver who's just been dominant. Stephon Diggs is, definitely, he's a guy who definitely can hurt you. But he hasn't been breaking it open this year. We are going to have our hands full with him being a veteran, but I think that where they're really able to hurt us is with their tight ends and having their backs out of the backfield with Travion Henderson. If we don't have Jaylen Walker coming back this game and we're just rolling out Bertrand again, I think that all bets are off. It's going to be a long day for us potentially. And I'm not going to do any film on J.D. Bertrand. I'll link something below, but I talked about him a little bit last year, and I thought that we might have some promise with him, but I talked about him as well as Nate Landman and some of the other linebackers that we had last year, Troy Anderson, for example, how all of those guys would be getting blocked at the point of attack and how they gave up a lot of the problems on our interior run game. That Divine Diablo has just been magnificent for us this year. Same thing applies now, except it's even more glaring because everybody else on the team is not playing read and react. They're just going, seeing ball, getting ball, whereas J.D. Bertrand is actually seeing everything late. And he's definitely a liability in pass coverage. I was saying he wasn't as much of a liability as Nate Landman, but J.D. Bertrand seems completely just lost out there. I'm not an advocate of anybody losing their job, but I do hope that we do have Jaylen Walker back out there because their tight ends and their running backs out of the backfield can definitely present problems for us. And if I was them, I would definitely run the ball at us. Now, not a whole lot going with that. New England is a top 10 offense in most categories. And Drake May has been wonderful this year. Some would even say he's playing at MVP level. I don't think that he's a guy that's not a game changer the way that even Josh Allen is, even though, ironically, we beat him. But I don't think he's necessarily better than Baker Mayfield right now. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He's been great for them this year, but they're a team that just plays really sound football and doesn't make any mistakes, and they're just really well coached on offense with Josh McDaniels out there. Just longtime New England veteran offensive coordinator. He's not been a great head coach, but he's been a wonderful offensive coordinator. Some of the best offenses that have been in NFL history when he had Tom Brady, and he's doing the same thing with Drake May right now, making him really expand and become a lot better. Where they really can hurt you at, though, is on the defensive side. New England has 2 players in the top 20 of sacks. Harold Landry with 5.5 sacks, and Jalon Chaisson with 4.5 sacks. These are 2 guys cause problems for you in your run game and in your pass rush attack. Solid dropping back and pass coverage as well, too. New England runs a true 3-4 defense, and Mike Vrabel is a defensive-minded coach. They're solid dropping back and pass coverage as well, too. New England runs a true 3-4 defense, and Mike Vrabel is a defensive-minded coach. They're not going to go for a lot of trickery. They're going to be well coached. They're going to know what to exactly look for and be able to sniff out our tendencies. So Zack Robinson, if he doesn't get it together, this team's going to be in for a long day. And I don't want to see us lose this game. But if we do lose in a particular fashion, there's a chance that Zack Robinson could be out of the door. And maybe that's a better thing. I don't know how much Zack Robinson's going to actually be able to change his approach this season and change up his philosophy. So hopefully they've done some soul searching and they've really gone out there and figured out how they could do better with some of this offensive play calling. They did say earlier this week that when he gets feedback from other coaches when they're playing, then they say that their offense is really hard to defend. And I guess you got to kind of take that type of thing with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's hard to defend Drake London and Bijan Robinson and Michael Pennix. These guys are very talented players, but doesn't mean that his offense is not predictable. And I'm just not sure how much of that's going to change. So on paper, I think that we're a better team. I believe we can win this game. And this is one of those games that we would go out here and win. After losing to somebody like the Dolphins, we come out here and just go out here and be world beaters and beat a better team. But if we don't have our head on tight, this is a game that we're going to give up a lot of points potentially and just get bullied and beat up and down the field. And they're going to tee off on us on our offense, especially if we have to stick Kirk out there again. Just pray to the football gods that we don't have to put Kirk Cousins out there again. Hopefully we do get Michael Pennix back this week. Hopefully he's healed up a bit. As we said before, bone bruises don't heal except for with time, and you can just continue to aggravate them and make them worse and more, comfortable. But I don't think more uncomfortable. But I don't think that it's a thing that's necessarily a structural problem. So it's about pain tolerance, I think, for the most part. But that does matter out there for a quarterback. And having a team be able to tee off on you and being able to move as functional as you want. So hopefully Michael Pennix does get a better practice in on Friday. That'll be the end-all, tell-all sign. And I'll hit you guys with an injury update as soon as I get more about that in a YouTube. By now, we're at that point of the season where fans are already ready to throw in the towel, even though we're only 3-4 right now. And I will say, there's been some things that I don't like that Raheem has done, but I do think that there's some things to still look forward to. Recently, we saw the interview with Rich McKay. He talked about some of the ups and downs with the Falcons and the team, and actually gave a little bit more insight and kind of withheld our suspicions as being true, that he still is in and present on a lot of meetings and some of the other advising points for Arthur Blank with running this team. I'm not sure how much of a factor that's had on a lot of the woes that we've had. There's definitely been some fair questioning of some of the coaches that we've had. I will say we interviewed several different coaches who've actually been hired by other staffs. Right now, Mike Vrabel comes to mind. Coach in Chicago, the coach in Seattle, even Jim Harbaugh. But I will say that Arthur Blank and even Terry Fontenot and all of that staff involved, they did their due diligence to make sure that they went after the hottest candidates. The coaches actually have a choice in where they wanted to come to. And for all intents and purposes, way we know it, Jim Harbaugh didn't necessarily want to come here, and Mike Vrabel was going to go to New England. And when you look at the other hires that were there, Raheem Morris was basically the most accomplished coach at that point in time. He had already been in 3 different Super Bowls and had been a coach here in Atlanta before previously with one of the best coaching staffs that we ever had before. So can't be mad and look in hindsight and rip that apart. Well, guys, that's our time for today. Make sure you tap in, check out our previous episode earlier this week when I talked about who's at fault and why Zack Robinson's offense is so vanilla. And stay tuned for Steve Hightower's Power Rankings this week. C-Mo to C. Mitchell, Falcons Bird Bath, checking out.